Greetings and welcome to Mount Olympus. I am Hercules Invictus, and today on The Enchanted Self, we have, of course, Dr. Barbara Becker Holstein and her husband, Russell Holstein. Both of them in the psychiatric profession, both of them helping people for decades. Greetings and welcome, Barbara and Russell. How are you?
We're good, and it's exciting to expand my relationship and Russell's with you because we go back so far and we've seen so many changes in the world and in all sorts of things. And yes, it's going to be fun to discuss this concept.
Yeah, I'm very excited that you're making a movie. I mean, I reveled when you did these selfie movies, when you pioneered that. You've been a writer for very many years, and you've given a slice of life type of books that focus on what it was like to be a woman or a girl at different ages, and always at the same time universal so that it touched the humanity inside everybody, even if they didn't or couldn't experiences such as the ones that you're describing. So this is very exciting, a movie and about romance in the winter of one's years. That is really, really exciting. What inspired you to pursue this and to develop it?
Yes, it's an interesting pursuit that started many, many years ago. And the first time that we tried to bring the concept, which we'll discuss what that concept is, alive, I wrote a short story so I would capture everything we had been talking about. And I'll just read you a few lines to give you a little sense of the beginning.
Sure, I'm losing you a little bit on the
Oh,
camera, Barbara. There we go.
okay.
That's better.
I had an affair with my husband, and we'll get back many times to how did we even pick that title? Why did we pick it? So this goes back to this first story draft. Hannah, whose name will not be Hannah in the film, is talking to a psychologist. Can you imagine waking up and discovering that the man in the bed is not your husband? And to top it off, he wants to know if you had a good time last night. That's what happened to me, and I'm still trying to get over the shock. I went to bed with my husband, it was great, and in the morning, well, I better go back to the beginning. At least it seemed to be the beginning of the affair that I have been having with my husband. And I think I'll stop at this very point because in the now we get into how this affair could possibly have started. And I think it will be more dramatic and fun if Russell enters with that part.
Okay. In reality, what happened is we were on vacation and we were driving a back road just to see the sights in a scenic part of the country. And we had driven for about an hour, and I knew that eventually the back road that we were taking would meet up with a main road, which would take us back to town in a much quicker fashion. But Barbara said to me, "You need to turn around. I have to go back to the town. I need a bathroom, and I'm hungry for lunch." And I tried to explain to her that if we kept going, we would hit the main road, which would get us there faster. But she was not listening. So I had to think of something to get the point across to her. So I said to her in my uh, in my newly learned dialect, "Oh, you must not talk like that to him. He's only trying to show you a good time. You must be very good to him, and you must listen to him. He will take you back as quickly as it is possible to go." Something like that. Uh, I had no idea that she would respond as favorably to this altar that I had just created. And as I said, we were on vacation. So were many times when I might have said something uh, that she didn't particularly want to hear. She would ask for this person. Now, this person has a name. His name was Subramanian, but she kept on calling him Subranamian, and she was asking for Subranamian anytime I said something that she did not entirely agree with.
Yes, well, you're basically on the right track, but only I can really express this feeling of delight when this sudden new being appeared and said all the right things with just the right tone, just making me feel happy and safe and loved. And it was really kind of magical. And I really wanted to hear him say something. It wasn't about meeting him, and it wasn't about, um, you know, leaving you. I hope you understand that. There was just something magical in the reassurance that he was able to provide. And I think as time went on, we started to think about that. This is kind of weird and kind of interesting. But what is it about what we're able to give someone else, and can it be too much? Well, possibly it did become too much over time, and not always, ringing. Uh, uh, wait, now see, this is um, this is not something scripted. We're just talking alive, so not exactly sure what we want to pop to at this point. Um, do we want to talk about more of some of the issues that were beginning to appear at times, like the way the husband felt, or just kind of where should we go from here?
Well, I think I could fill it in from my
Yeah,
perspective. Um, it was obvious that she was having fun with this, okay, and I could play along, but I figured, well, why not create you know, create a story that somehow or another could arise in a situation like this, because the more she wanted to talk to, well, the person she called Subramanian, real name Subramanian, uh, the more I figured, well, I can make a kind of a story of this. I'm going to get jealous of this guy. So in one of the situations, we had actually gone to an Indian restaurant, and there was this little busboy, and I tried to convey to her, not in my Subramanian accent, I said to her, "Do you know who that is?" She said, "Who?" I said, "The busboy." She said, "No." I said, "That's Subramanian." And she predictably expressed anger. "That's not him."
yeah. I was furious. I'm still furious about that. You shouldn't have done that.
Well, the bottom line is, I thought we could create a story where I could make her jealous of this person that I made up. So,
Well, anyway, over time, we played with the visitation of Subramanian. Is that correct? Or do you want me to say it the other way?
well, his real name is Subramanian.
All right. Okay. So,
Superman come from Superman? Because it sounds like Superman, Supermanian.
Right.
yes, we're not sure where he came from. But anyway, over time, he came and visited us, and I even had some lovely fantasies of going to India and meeting up with his wife, because actually, as the story unfolded, it turned out he was married, you know. But anyway, the story went on quite a while, and we began to realize that as psychologists, we were onto something that's real but not tackled very much, if at all. And that is that we can become jealous of people in our lives. We can become jealous of opportunities we've lost. We all know that. But we can also become jealous of parts of ourselves that get wrapped around another way of coming across, and we can feel bad. We can feel that the person is supposed to be closest to us only likes us when we're in a certain way. You know, there are a lot of derivatives that can come off of this concept. And we thought that it was really worth tackling. Uh, so we've talked about it many, many times. And as I said, I did write a full story along those lines where the husband felt pretty bad after a while, and only with the help of a psychologist was able to piece together, you know, that he had to be very honest with his wife, and they had to climb that mountain of getting out of this situation, which they do in my story. And that is actually, of course, what often happens in psychotherapy, that somebody is not clear about what they need to explain to someone they care about, and what they need to feel about their own feelings. So that's where this story sort of started and ended at the time, and ended up like a 13-page story and didn't go much further. However, we kept thinking about it and thinking about it. And I started to pull together a lot of the films that I've done, and some of the stories that I have yet to tell, that I've either made a story or I made a short film, but I want to do more. You know, age kind of surrounds us too. We're seniors. What do we want to really take care of on this planet, kind of thing? And we decided we wanted to turn this into a short film, that it's provocative, that many people suffer either jealousy of themselves and not realize it, and certainly jealousy of other people. But the jealousy of parts of oneself can be hindering a person. And so that's where we got to, and we now have um, I'm not going to tell you the names of the stars or the person that's helping us with the actual filming yet, because we haven't signed anything. But we do have people lined up, and we have a projection date of probably the production date, sorry, of the first or second week in October, to do 3 days
Oh,
of film.
wow. That is great.
It's a short film, about 25 minutes, so about 3 full days should be enough to do the actual filming in different settings. And we are so excited. We think it's not only good for us, but it's good for people, the public, to not shy away from some of the sort of silent pain that we get into by not understanding, you know, how human we are in different dimensions.
And I have to admit that the story is not actually as it happened. However, um, she, she was so enjoying this character that was made up, in her word, Subramanian, that she would oftentimes say things like, "Well, Subramanian would never have said that," or "Subramanian would never have done that," and basically we were just having fun with it.
Hmm.
I decided along the way that we could make up a story about how the person, me, in this case, who made up the character, becomes jealous of her interest in Subramanian. Of course, I knew I was making it up as we went along, and I was merely entertaining her, by pretending. But in the story, the man who invents the character Subramanian or Subramanian um, becomes jealous. And in fact, I played with it actually at the time that we made this thing, because we really were in an Indian restaurant and there really was a little busboy, and I thought, why don't I play with it? Why don't I tell her that little busboy is Subramanian? Okay,
And I got really mad
and she got
because
mad, so
he
I
was,
realized she was playing into
yeah,
the narrative.
and he was breaking the rules because the rules, but underneath it all, we were doing this as a couple uh, who have a good marriage, and it was an extension of fun. And he broke those rules by
I
kind
was
of,
having fun.
well, I wasn't at that moment. But anyway, so we rarely bring them alive at this point, but once in a rare moon, I'll imagine that I'll say something to him like, Subramanian's coming on his magic carpet, because I invented that he had a carpet. He could just come like in the old days, and suddenly appear. And maybe we play with it a few minutes. But the reality is, it's now bringing it to the public and making something that is a very unusual aspect of the mind and how we look at ourselves more understandable, but somewhat funny at the same time. And we are thinking that this film will be a kind of what did you call it, rom-com?
Rom-com.
Yeah, it's going to have some not really laughing out loud, but some interesting casual fun-like things as this couple works their way through dealing with a imaginary character and finally getting some psychological help to better understand what's been going on.
Wow, that is amazing. I've worked with fantasy role-playing techniques in the past, even clinically in like Elmhurst Hospital and other places, and it's very powerful. I remember once I was given a young man in my vocational rehabilitation program, and I was told he can't talk. He doesn't talk. He just says a word here or there. So at that time, the Marvel superheroes TSR role-playing game had come out. So he saw that and he started talking a bit more about the Hulk and the Thing because he identified with them. And so I set up a game where he was the Hulk and then he was the Thing. And we found that although he couldn't talk as himself, he could talk as the Thing and the Hulk. So
Mm.
the interactions were with these fictional characters that were woven into this fantasy, and then he was able to transfer that over into his regular non-fantasy personality. So what you guys are doing is phenomenally powerful, and you're both psychologists. So how do you see this being used therapeutically? What type of problems or issues do you see it addressing and helping people with?
Well,
Good.
well, I will oftentimes deal with a member of a couple where there is a lot of acrimony going on between the two of them, and I suggest, number one, don't participate in the acrimony. Number two, if something is provoking you, speak of your sadness, not of your anger. And if you follow the steps, you may end up in a situation where you're making the other person laugh. And if you can make the other person laugh, you're doing a lot to keep the relationship going. People don't know how to do this. They just don't know how to do it. Not only that, even though they may like the idea, they're not quite sure that what they might do would intrigue the other person. And in this case, if I could have said all of this and she was really not in a good place with regard to me, she could become angry with it. Uh, in actual fact, we've always used a number of comedy things to kind of get through whatever is a rough spot. An example would be that if she's yelling at me or angry with me, I might say to her, you know, I really like that when you do that, and she laughs.
Yes.
You're a wise man, Russell.
So I think that in therapy, when someone's come in weekly, maybe for a few months, or a little more seriously, may end up in therapy for longer, a year, 2 years, whatever, that there are so many moments when a person feels belittled or not getting the attention that they want. And so often they shy away from making clear to someone else that it's a real problem from them, that that they don't want to be pigeonholed in a certain way or told things in a certain way. And if the person is intimate in their lives, like a sibling or a best friend or a partner, then they might really be able to gather from our film a little more courage to just say, like, I really have been disappointed with the way summer turned out this year. I'm not just teasing, I'm making that up, but, something that really has hurt them in some subtle way, or a little bit monetarily, or something that went wrong, and we just eat it. Well, it's not always the best thing to just eat it. It's important to have the courage to make it clear. And then if humor can be on top of it, it can be really a relief.
And this is something that you're moving to a whole new level. You're a very creative person, and you've produced a lot of media over the years. And so here you're taking your creativity to a whole new level. What is it about this project that uh, prompted you or inspired you to move it to that whole new level?
Well, I think a lot of it for me is realizing the stage of life of that when you don't know if you have 2 weeks or 15 years, it's important to do some of the things you've thought about doing. And although I am very proud and it means a lot to me that I am probably the inventor of film, using the phones that we're so used to as a creative artistic form, particularly for teenagers doing acting. Although I'll give myself a badge that I really did it, the world of filmmaking is so much broader than that. And it can be so full of rich lessons and meaningful experiences and all sorts of things. And I want to be part of it for a while. It's top of my list right now.
And I come at it from a different perspective. because I deal with a lot of people, a lot of patients who are in troubled marriages. Now, it's important to know if there's trouble going on in the marriage, do the people in fact still love each other? And I say to them, if you love each other, if you know you love the person and you're having a disagreement, it's far less serious than if you are questioning whether you love the other person. Because if you know that you love each other, you have a lot more leeway to try things that would reflect the love or the fun or the enjoyment that you have with this other person than if you are convinced that you don't love each other. And so in this particular film, the idea that the male character comes up with a alter who speaks with the Indian dialect, and it could have been any dialect, that they're letting the other person know that whatever is going on, it's really not all that serious. We can have disagreements, but we can still love each other.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
very powerful.
very well said. Yes.
Now, I know from my own work with interactive storytelling and fantasy that the characters that are created for the people to experience the story, after a while, they take a life of their own and they kind of evolve. And then people become very concerned with the character and what the character is doing between the story. So they'll make sure the character has enough money to last until the next time we get together uh, to spin this story. They'll set them up in a nice hotel or an inn, and they'll do all sorts of things. The character is imaginal, doesn't exist outside of the imagination of everybody who is there to interact and tell this particular story. So do you find that that's happening with Super Manion or Super Nami?
Well, going back to when we were playing with it, and also when I was thinking, if I could turn it into a film, the wife was doing uh, imagining, such as the magic carpet. And she also was imagining the type of Bollywood dancing. And when left alone in her own fantasies, she was, with 20 other people in a costume doing Bollywood dancing.
Oh,
So,
awesome.
so some of this, yes, I don't think as clearly as you would do it to say, okay, your person will be at X Hampstead Inn, don't worry, but there was a fantasy level of her exploring the world more than she was exploring it, um, before this episode happened. And I should mention that we we wrote a version of this, um, uh, and we did it as a table read on, and in that version, um, you see a lot of what still remains, but we couldn't get as far as a film can because the actors are just table reading. They don't have to prepare themselves the same way. But you do get a sense that this the gal that plays the main character, that she is spreading her wings beyond even what the husband may even recognize. So there's a lot of stuff that happens with this kind. You're right. This kind of stuff does breed the birth of other levels.
Yeah, it's amazing. The characters take on a life of their own, and then their backstory comes.
Yes.
Also, what I've noticed seems to happen in that type of work is that people initially gravitate towards manifesting idealized self or shadow, So initially, the characters that they create for the story, for the experience, are either themselves as they'd ideally like to be, but for whatever reason didn't or couldn't, or shadow, where they give themselves permission to do things that they wouldn't do in their regular, waking world self. So that's a very interesting exploration. And as somebody does this work more, it becomes more nuanced also, and it's less of a either or extreme type of thing, and it becomes a much more nuanced type of thing. I think you'd be doing the world a great service by making this a psychological tool that people of all ages could use and apply and grow and get more insight into themselves and the people around them. And like Russell said, especially if the people have love between them, this is a fun way of exploring different things indirectly and powerfully.
Yeah.
Also, let me give you some backstory to this.
Sure.
Um, in the 1960s, there was a massive shift. One of the important things that took place then was the birth of the feminist movement, um, where uh, women felt that in many respects they could be the equal of men. It was the women's liberation movement. Uh, and while all of this was probably a positive thing that exists with us today, women are more liberated. Something that has always been there was not talked about, and that is romantic love. The women's liberation movement, because of what it emphasized and because of what it failed to emphasize, uh, was a tacit attack on romantic love. And the bottom line is that we feel that at this point it is important to recreate the importance of romantic love.
And I agree with you 1,000,000% that romantic love is phenomenally important. I'm a romantic person myself. And now, where women's rights and bodily autonomy are being threatened again by our society, and they're in danger of losing those things, perhaps it's time for us men to go there not as defenders but as partners to confront this evil and to nip it in the bud so that we don't spring backwards and lose a whole generation to the type of morass that we crawled out of those years ago.
I think what you're saying is that whatever's going on today, positive things like romantic love are not being spoken of.
Well, not
They
being
have not
developed
been
enough,
spoken
right?
of enough. I guess, at a marriage ceremony, they may speak of it in traditional terms, but no one speaks of romantic love. So, a follow-up to this particular film, this particular episode that we're going to produce, we hope to produce, uh, perhaps we can restart the romantic love.
Well, and I will be right there because this brings up the little book that I think I got you a copy of,
Mhm.
with the three characters and
Yes.
what how they were growing around 1960 toward an open gate for everything, fun, experimentation, uh, going into drugs, but also women moving into higher jobs, etc. And I think that a lot of the nuances of what romance can feel like and be like, and it's not necessarily passionate love of the couple going down the aisle. I believe that romance can be just making ordinary life sweeter. It can be talking to a neighbor in a way that lifts her spirits for the day. No other strings attached, just a
You're
fee.
talking about having an affair with a neighbor?
No, I'm talking that the word romance is a more expansive term that is about bringing lightness and light and hope into one's parameters. And one of the things that is at risk now is that, young women who thought they could choose what to do with their own bodies are at risk, and that's terrible. And that's one reason I really wrote that little book. But in terms of my own dreams after this film is done, I already have two other women waiting in the wings of created by me who live in probably they'll start in 1960 and it will end when Kennedy is assassinated. That's about the scope of these two women in terms of what my books or book will be about. But they will have occasion to really understand romance and also understand making a mess of things sometimes, and
But there's self-reflection, there's growth, there's development, and again, I can't identify directly with a lot of the characters that you write about, but the books are always very human and deal with universal truths, so that what the person gets from the experience that might be again alien or understandable is something that's universally true. And even though the books are definitely about women's empowerment, they're about human empowerment as well. And you have been focusing, and all the time I've known you and before, on different areas of life and different periods in a woman's life, from girlhood to adulthood. So I think your collected work, that's something that will be remembered, as well as your creativity and your insights, because it's a very human. I'm not expressing myself perhaps as clear. Your work is very human,
mhm.
and it again, it's very reflective, and it encourages empowerment and growth, and that's a wonderful thing to give the world.
Well, said very well, and I am hoping that I can convince Russell, my adored partner over so many years, my husband. I hope I can convince him that he'll hang out with me for more than one film. I really hope we'll, maybe be able to access the filmmaking world in a way that is helpful and charming and meaningful and all the rest. And so that's my dream.
Now we went through 40 minutes. Do you want to speak for the other 20, or do you want to start wrapping up? It's up to you.
We want to wrap up because I
Okay.
hope to come back and, we'll cover more. But I think this is a very good point.
And how can people find you, the worlds that you've created, and the creativity and the insight that you have so generously shared? And where can they learn more about that and become more a part of it?
Well, for me, the Enchanted Self website is very active with a lot of stuff. Things I've written, films I've made, discussions, all sorts of things. So I encourage people to go to enchantedself.com. And if you do prefer to write to me at barbara.holstein@gmail.com. And I only won't answer you if you sound really weird and scary.
And Russell, how about you? How can people find you and enter your world?
Really weird and scary.
Go ahead. Yeah. Do you want to give your address, your writing address if someone?
Well, I think they should write to you.
Okay.
Let's not confuse it with my address.
Okay. So I will pass along to Russell anything that someone may have been reaching out for him and not be sure. I'll pass it along.
Okay, thank you both. This was a wonderful show, and it'll be up by tomorrow. And Russell, it's been a special treat. We haven't really sat and talked in nearly 3 decades. So I feel very blessed and honored that we got a chance to talk today. I wish you both the greatest success
Blame it
with,
on her.
I'm sorry?
He said, blame it on her.
Okay. Well, and I hope you stick around for more films as well. And thank you to our audience for tuning in. Until next time, this is us wishing you joyous journeys and amazing adventures. Good night, everybody.
Good night.